All right, so we got a couple projects on this Generac generator. So after the big power outage here, the first thing I'm going to tackle is getting that rocker cover gasket replaced, because that thing is just leaking oil all over the place. So, and then the other thing I checked was the voltage and the hertz were off. I think low and high. So we'll have to see about adjusting that as well. So let's hop to it here. All right, so I got the rocker cover slash valve cover, whatever you want to call it, off. The gasket that I got is this. So it's an actual Generac part. I got it off of Amazon, and if you look, it says gasket rocker cover, and then it says 410 HC. I'm not sure if 410 is like the engine size, maybe. But this gasket that I got, and they sent two, it was $25 for two of these, is much thicker than the original gasket. And we'll take a look at the original gasket here in a second. The original one is like paper thin, so hopefully this is the correct gasket. It looks like it's got the correct dimension to it, and it's got this little notch out too, which looks like it would line up with the rocker cover, but for some reason it's way thicker than the original that came with it. So let's take a look at that. So here's the original. I don't know if you can see it, but the thing is paper thin in comparison to the other one. It came off mostly in one piece. It was only around the holes where there was some stuff that stuck to the block there, the top of the head here. And I didn't see anything on the bottom here where it was like cracked or anything like that causing that leak, but I'm sure that's where it's coming from, because it was all wet. You can see it's wet, and at the top here it's not. It's nice and dry. So I'm not sure what the deal is. I looked over the other gasket that I got, because I got two of those from Amazon, and one actually has a crack right here. And I'm like, well, that's the worst spot to have a crack. So luckily you got two gaskets for that 25, but one of them looks like it's probably not going to be very useful. I don't want to use any type of gasket seal or gasket maker on it. That just makes a mess. It would probably do a pretty good job, but if you need to get it off, it can be a pain, and that's a kind of a tight spot. You'd have to pull the tank to get in there and do a nice job to really clean it up. So here's what the old gasket looks like in there. You can see how paper thin that is. I'll put the new gasket in there. Let me clean this up, and you'll see the difference. What I'm talking about is much thicker. Alright, so here's the new gasket, and you can see that thing is almost sitting a little proud of that. So I'm just wondering, maybe that's what the issue was, that the first gasket was too thin. This one obviously is going to have some pretty good squish the way it looks. The only other concern I would have is that the bolts are going to be too short, but it looks like we should have enough that it should grab. I could probably go with longer bolts if I source some. Looking at the head there, the threads go in quite a ways. Alright, and this is the gasket that's bad, and you can see right where my middle finger is, right in here. That's where it's cracked. And that, like I said, that's the worst possible spot, because that's where I got the oil leak at here. So, and it comes with a piece of cardboard in there, but obviously with Amazon, you know, stuff gets shipped, it gets damaged in shipping. It happens. So let's put this new one on and tighten her down. Alright, I got it all tightened down. That makes a huge difference. The first time when I retightened that with the old gasket, thinking that was going to fix it, you could tell like there was no like squish left to the gasket. It was basically the metal making contact, and just the way that this cover is recessed, I wonder if it wasn't bottoming out. You can tell now when you're cranking it down, there's definitely gasket being compressed, which is probably what you want for this type of application. I'm not sure what type of torque to put on it, and I'm using a 3/8 drive, which is probably super overkill. So, and that's a 10 millimeter. So I just kind of started at the top. I did the top, I started, came across, went to the top, and then I choked up on the wrench and just kind of checked it that way. If it starts to leak, like I said, we can definitely crank it down more. There's a lot of compression there with that gasket, which is nice. So I'll get the rubber breather part here. I'll get that reconnected, and I don't know, I'll put the side cover back on. We should be done with that part of it. Alright, and if I was remembering correctly, the voltage on this generator was low, and I believe the hertz were high. And I watched a video of a guy that repairs generators, and he had this exact model, and that was the same issue he had, was that the voltage was on the low side and the hertz were high. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know the voltage was nowhere near 120, and I know the hertz was over 60. So, and it was a while ago. It's when I got this kilowatt meter here. I checked it, and like I said, I noticed that the voltage was on the low side. So let's set it up, run it, and I'll check both outlets because I believe they're on 2 different poles on here. So we'll check both sides with this, and we'll check the hertz just to see. And if the voltage is indeed low, I believe we need to open up that cover, and there should be some adjustment in there. Alright, so let's pop this cover off and see what we got going on. I got a 7mm on here. So, and the other thing, I talked with my dad, who has a similar generator, but it's a 10,000 watt, and he said the next time I'm down by him we should check his too, because his might be low as well. It might just be a deal with these Generacs. I have enough room to get past here. Snug. There we go. Alright. And I know there's something in the book about flipping something around. I don't know if it's something to do with a ground or something like that, but the piece we're looking at is going to be underneath here. I believe there's like a larger capacitor, something else, and then there should be like a pointometer that you can adjust the voltage. So, and this looks like this is a different size. Oh, these are also 7s. Grab these 2 right away. Doesn't look too bad in there. Looks pretty good. If there is road noise, by the way, we have our town's 4th of July celebration in June here, and people tend to get stupid. So if there's a lot of like cars racing, stuff like that, I apologize, I guess, for the idiots in this town. So, yep, that's what it looks like. So we got, that is a huge capacitor, man. And right on the back side here, there's a little tiny, looks like an eyeglass screw. Let me move the camera and show you that. Alright, so right here is what I'm talking about. And I believe to increase the voltage, you go counterclockwise. So it looks like we're basically at the, if you want to call that the 9 and the 3 o'clock position. So let's go 1 full revolution and see how much that brings it up. So be half. And that would be 1 full revolution counterclockwise. So let's check it. Alright, so that's definitely the correct direction. So I figured we had about 115 when we started. We went 1 full turn, we got about 116.5 or so. So about 1 full turn should do about 1.5 volts. So let's do 2 full turns and see how much closer that gets us to 120. Might be over, I don't know. Let's just do 2 full turns and see where we get. So it's a half, that's 1, that's a half, that's 2 full revolutions. And I think when I started, it wasn't exactly at the 9 and 3. It was probably closer to like maybe 10 and 5 or something. But that's where we're gonna go. I'll throw it back on. Let's see if our voltage is close. The hertz, I believe we have to adjust by turning the idle down on the generator. So let's see if we got this first before we get to the next part. Alright, so we're a little high. I'm going to go back a quarter turn. So we're going to go to the 12 and the 6 o'clock position. We're going to go clockwise. And that should hopefully get us right at 120. So I did check just to see what our actual line voltage is coming from the utility, and we got 122 out in the shop here. So if the voltage was high, I can't see how that would hurt anything because our voltage coming in from the power pole is 122 or so. The hertz though from the wall, from the utility, is right at 60, so that we definitely need to adjust on this, that this is a little high. So I'm thinking we should have it close now. I guess this really isn't an exact science, just gonna kind of turn around on that screw a little bit, but we should be close now. I think we were at about 120, was it 0.7 or 0.9, so if we go a quarter turn back, that should be pretty close. Alright, so to adjust the hertz, I believe this is correct too, you'll see that there's looks like a lock nut right there. And, oh, come on now. Let's see if we can keep this in focus there. Lock nut, and that is going to set your engine throttle or idle, whatever you want to call it there. So I got I think it's a 5/16 on there. So I'll set the camera up and I'll hold the watt meter here and I'll see, it should be just counterclockwise backing it off to loosen it, and see if we can bring the idle down so we get the hertz back to, I don't know, closer to 60 hertz, and then make sure that the voltage is still at the same 120. So there's the screw I was using to make the adjustment. It's just a lock nut on a threaded rod that must be attached to a linkage that goes to the governor. Alright, so I did some more testing and I put the hertz back to where it was, so it's at 63.3. When I have it at that setting, the generator can overcome starting the compressor and run fine. I also added a toaster oven to it as well. So I had a toaster oven and the compressor running, and with both those items going, I had, I think it was like 61.9 hertz and 121 volts. The voltage actually came up, so it must be the governor pulling more because of the load and then bringing the voltage up. So the voltage is actually right where it should be, so that's good. The more load you get, you're getting more voltage put on, which is perfect. But the hertz, I'm not sure that I can do any adjustment on that. I could turn it down, but then anything that's like a big draw item for starting, I'm worried that the generator is not going to be able to overcome that, because you're bringing the you're not bringing the idle down, but you're bringing the RPM down on the generator, and it's not going to be able to overcome that. Alright, so the only thing I got left on this is the oil change. I'm not going to show you that. And I haven't been able to source any 30 weight oil. It seems to be a hard commodity to find. So this should give you an idea though, if you have a generator similar to this, how to at least adjust the voltage. I don't know if you can do anything with the hertz or not, but definitely have to do some experimenting with it. Maybe I can get this dialed in a little closer. We'll see. If I do, I'll bring you back online here. So, all right, that's going to be it for now.